What's good? Brian Tong here, and I am legitimately wowed after Apple's peak performance event, and this is just the first event of the year, people. You know, I've been calling this event the appetizer of 2022, but this was a full-on meal. So let's get right into it, and we have to start with the Mac Studio and the Studio Display with the new M1 Ultra. You know, I described the M1 Max inside of my 16-inch MacBook Pro review last year as a power hitherto undreamt of.
You could destroy life on a scale hitherto undreamt of.
And now, I don't know what to think of the new M1 Ultra. Like, the M1 Ultra chip is two freaking M1 Max chips combined together that bring a 20-core CPU with 16 performance cores, 4 high-efficiency cores, up to 128 gigs of unified memory, and a 64-core GPU. Essentially, we're doubling the performance speed of the M1 Max on paper, but it will be even more interesting to see what it does in real-world tests. And to give you some idea of the power here, the current M1 Max on the 16-inch MacBook Pro can play back 7 streams of 8K video with ease. Well, the M1 Ultra will be able to play 18 streams of 8K ProRes 422 video at the same time. Holy sh**. Now look at this thing. That Mac Studio is thick, and I like them thick with a lot of C's. Its design is clean with a single piece of aluminum at 7.7 inches wide and 3.7 inches tall. Its minimalist look will fit in almost anywhere, and a new thermal system pulls air into the M1 Studio and distributes it throughout the system, and it's propelled out of its body like the Holy Spirit going through mine right about now. It's like, ugh, good Lord, this thing is wild. You know, it has all the connections you'll need. 4 Thunderbolt 4 USB-C ports, 10 gigabit Ethernet. There's no magnetic power adapter. That was rumored. You got 2 USB-A ports and HDMI port and a Pro audio jack. It's also Wi-Fi 6, not 6E, and Bluetooth 5 compatible. The best part of it, connectivity on the front. Now, if it's the Mac Studio with the M1 Max chip, you're gonna get 2 USB. If it's the M1 Ultra, there are Thunderbolt 4 for faster data transfers and even a freaking SD card reader at the front. I mean, what's not to love here? Well, you know, I think that they could have been maybe a little clever and turned that front into a cute face. But that's why they make the products and I don't. It also supports up to 4 Pro Display XDRs in case you have one of, you know, 4 of those laying around, and then a 4K TV as well if you're a boss like that. So this is an amazing machine. It gets me excited, but also I gotta be real. For most creators, this is honestly gonna be overkill, and for most people, this is totally OP. And I don't say that in a bad sense, but even amongst creators, there's probably a really small group that actually needs this for their workflow. I'll get one if I feel the absolute need to get my 4K, let's say 20-ish minute video export to maybe render out to 3 minutes instead of the roughly 7 minutes. Maybe it's even faster than that. I mean, we're gonna have to see, but I love this machine. This is a true generational leap with the M1, and it's the next step in the evolution of the Mac. And goodness, we aren't even on the M2. It's definitely not a machine for everyone. It's really made for those content creators and professionals that are working in media, but damn, this thing is exciting. Now let's talk about CPU performance. We're gonna do some comparisons that they talked about versus the previous Mac Pro. You have the Ultra, it's 60% faster than the highest 28-core Xeon processor. It's also about 1/5 the size, and then its graphics performance is 80% faster than the current Mac Pro's fastest graphics card, according to Apple. I mean, come on now, this is a rad apple! Yeah! And it even kicks the ass of the 27-inch iMac so hard that they had to remove it from the store to purchase. Like, you can no longer purchase a 27-inch iMac on Apple Online anymore. It's done. So it's basically also turned the 2019 Mac Pro into a piece of high-end furniture. And, you know, look, we should be fair. The current Mac Pro, it does have true expansion capabilities. You can pop in different cards and RAM and hard drives. Apple did say that the Mac Studio was modular. I guess if that means plugging things into it means it's modular to them. Okay, whatever. But let's look at pricing here. I configured the current Mac Pro with a 28-core Intel Xeon W with 192 gigs of RAM, a single Radeon Pro W6800X graphics card, and 8 terabytes of solid storage. Costs $23,799. Okay, let's look at a Mac Studio with its M1 Ultra. That starts at $3,999. You have the Mac Studio with the M1 Max. That's going to start at $1,999. But let's look at kind of a fully spec'd out Mac Studio with the M1 Ultra, its highest processor with a 64-core CPU, 128 gigs of unified memory, and 8 terabytes of storage. That costs $7,999. Now, I'm pretty sure it's most likely that it's still going to be able to outperform a fully spec'd out Mac Pro. If you want like everything fully maxed out to its fullest, that would cost you $49,799 to configure today. And I don't own one of those. I haven't put it to the test. I won't be able to. Maybe someone will, but what's crazier is that Senior VP of Hardware Engineering, John Turnus, teased us at the end.
Making our transition nearly complete with just one more product to go, Mac Pro. But that is for another day.
Ugh. There was a report that had been recently released that Intel was poised to catch up to the M1 Max performance in a couple of years. That was before Apple dropped the M1 Ultra. Like, good luck with that. Cupertino, they've been sitting on this and they are laughing their butts off right now. But my friends, Apple still has the Mac Pro like somewhere up their sleeve. The new Mac Studio, that is just somewhere between the upcoming Mac Pro and the current Mac Mini. And this is cray-cray. So here I am, all hyped up as a content creator, but then, on the flip side, the Mac Studio really doesn't appeal to the majority of Apple users because it's such a higher end machine. I totally get it when some of you wrote me and said, this event was pretty meh for you. And that's because you didn't see me actually participate in my Apple AMSR on the live stream. You missed out. Like, it was really crunchy.
We do Apple ASMR here on the live stream.
So where are you at with the Mac Studio? Is this an amazing feat of technology, or it doesn't really matter for you even if it is amazing? Hey, put in the comments. That's why I leave them open, except for those stupid spam bots that are trying to scam you. Don't fall for that, and YouTube, you gotta do better. Okay, let's go back to the Apple event. Let's get back on track, right? I would say the most exciting product for creators that isn't gonna completely break the bank has to be the new Studio Display. This is a 27-inch 5K display with a built-in 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera with 3 mics and 6 speakers with spatial audio. To me, it's kind of like what you would get if the Pro Display XDR and the M1 iMac had a baby. And I would love to make love to the Pro Display XDR. It supports the P3 color gamut. It has 600 nits of peak brightness and a max 60 hertz refresh rate. The gaming community, they're gonna roll their eyes, but this display is really for the Apple aesthetic and content creation audience. There's 3 USB-C ports and a Thunderbolt 3 port, but this isn't just a display. There is a freaking A15 Bionic chip inside that drives the center stage feature, spatial audio, and Siri capabilities. When I also think of that, I just hope that this opens up the door to potentially use this display like a media content streaming display in the future. I mean, there's real use cases for having this in a living space as a display for your computer, but then also you could switch it over to, put the new Apple TV content in there like Major League Baseball games, which you announced. I mean, why not? Other companies, they're already doing this, and it would be a no-brainer to put Apple TV functionality inside of this in the future if Apple wants to give that to us. I repeat, guys and gals, there's an A13 Bionic inside of this display. Now it starts at $1,599, $1,599. It would be a great companion at really a more digestible price for MacBook Pro users and creators, not something like the $5,000, $6,000 Pro Display XDR. And it just happens to match the new Mac Studio. What a coincidence. Now you have the standard glass option or the nano texture glass upgrade for $300 more. It comes with the standard 30-degree tilt stand, but if you want the floating stand that also adjusts height, that's an additional $400 upgrade as well, but this is not gonna swivel between portrait and landscape mode like the Pro Display XDR, so it's a completely different stand. A fully spec'd out Studio Display with those options, that's gonna come in at $22.99 if you go for all the perks and the bells and whistles. Okay, I love the Studio Display. I think it's a great one for everyone. Let's talk about phones. The iPhone 13 and 13 Pro, they get an all-new green color, and damn, wouldn't you have loved these for its launch? The 13 gets green, and then the 13 Pro gets this I want to make out with you all night alpine green with the metal finish. Oh, it looks so good. Then the iPhone SE 3rd generation, right? This made its expected appearance And you never had to convince me that the SE is one of their most important iPhones, and it always will be for a long time. The biggest change here is the A15 Bionic. Now on the surface, you're like, okay, fine, you got a faster processor, but think if you had like an iPhone 6 or 7 or 8, it's a big change because it will be faster, but it's also doing a lot of things under the hood that make this SE 3rd gen significantly better for photos and video. You got HDR, you got Deep Fusion, so photos on this thing are gonna look amazing. Also, the A15 combined with iOS optimizations and battery improvements give this device now 2 more hours of battery use from the previous 13 hours in the earlier SE to now 15 hours with this new SE. It's gonna be snappier, but this iPhone SE has improved, and I literally think of my mom right away. This is gonna feel like a brand new phone, and she's gonna love it. Now, it also brings 5G, but only supports sub 6 gigahertz 5G, which is the more common flavor. It does not support the faster millimeter wave 5G that is not as widely available, but the 13 and 13 Pro lineup do have both. It starts at 64 gig storage for $429, and that will likely be really one of Apple's best-selling products in 2022, even with a $30 base model increase. But for me, this is a solid Apple. Good on you.
Yeah!
Now, earlier, I mentioned how Apple killed the 27-inch iMac, and it does kind of feel like the new 5th generation iPad Air might have not eliminated, but killed any chances that someone is gonna get an M1 iPad Pro unless they just want a bigger display and the mini LED display. It definitely hurts the 11-inch iPad Pro because this iPad Air 5th gen is absolutely stacked. They gave it an M1 chip. It brings a new 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera for center stage, and it has 5G. You know, you get all the other capabilities like Apple Pencil and Magic Keyboard support that it already does, and it's still that sweet 10.9-inch size, pretty much freaking close to 11. That is perfect for most people. Plus, it has new colors, but I am a sucker for purple. The colors, though, they really have an Easter theme, or what I like to call Easter. Get it? Because air is like the in Easter, so it's Easter. All right, well, if this YouTube thing doesn't work out, hey, Apple marketing, call me. You know, I've got a lot more where that came from. Now, it starts at $599, but I still gotta throw out a bad apple for a base storage of 64 gigs on an iPad at that level. You know, we're not blaming the supply chain on this one. An iPad Air should start with more than 64 gigs for me, but then the only other storage option is 256 gigs, and that jumps up the price to $749, and that is just $50 less than jumping up to the 11-inch iPad Pro. See, Apple, Apple knows what they're doing here. Now, the iPad Air was already my pick for the iPad that would pretty much satisfy almost anyone, and that's the model you should start looking at first. And now the 5th gen has even made that argument even stronger. The iPad Air, that is a killer product, and it also really makes me wonder, what do we have in store for the iPad Pro this year now? Because look at that Air. It's crazy. So the takeaways here from the Apple event: the Mac Studio and Studio Display look amazing, great for content creators. Apple pushing what is possible with their tech, and we're not even on the M2. The announcement like truly blew my mind when I saw them, but I don't know, I get it. It doesn't do much for most users. They're kind of like, all right. Hey, two different strokes for two different folks. Now, I'm gonna review them, but my pre-order happened so late that my Mac Studio is set to arrive in May. Whoops, but I said it. If this is overkill, what does the future Mac Pro end up looking like? I don't even know, like, this already blew my mind. Now, the iPhone SE and iPad Air, they are gonna be money makers, kind of the solid, steady products for Apple because they just hit that sweet spot. And I just need to remind you, this was the Appletizer for this year, right? We have so much new Mac hardware coming in. Who knows, maybe we do see the AR VR headset. I was surprised because during my live stream, it was the #1 surprise that the audience was hoping to see, but this is where it comes back to you, right? What do you think? What product was the most important to you from this event? I wanna know. You put in the comments because I've heard enough of me yapping, you've heard enough of me yapping. I think we're pretty good. So thank you so much for hanging out during the live stream. We had over 40,000 people check it out. You all made it so fun and crazy, but that's gonna do it for this video. If you like what you see, give me that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, to get all my latest videos when they drop. And if you want more of that Apple goodness, you can check out my weekly Apple Bits XL audio podcast to get the latest deep dive with all these stories and new ones every week. We are going to have, obviously, a reactions episode with special guests from Input Magazine. Ray Wong is going to get crazy, but I'll see you all in the next video, and keep on coming back because you can believe I've got plenty of content coming up in the next couple of weeks. New products galore is gonna be fun. So take care and be safe. Peace and love. What did I just do? I forgot to do it. Peace and love. Hey, that's how we end the video.